Welcome to the deep dive. So, I want you to imagine waking up tomorrow in a community where you are promised, guaranteed, even, that you will never again experience war or hunger or crime.
Which is quite the promise.
Right. But it goes way beyond just fulfilling those basic survival needs. Picture a place where even a simple, petty argument with your neighbor is entirely a thing of the past.
Yeah, that sounds like pure science fiction.
It really does.
I mean, it sounds like the absolute peak of utopian idealism. It's the kind of society that philosophers and sociologists have been debating for literal centuries.
Oh, totally.
And those debates usually end with the cynical conclusion that, well, human nature just won't allow for it. We are supposedly too selfish, too tribal, and just too prone to conflict.
Right, the classic human nature defense. But what if there was a group that claimed they actually cracked the code and pulled it off?
A pretty bold claim.
Extremely bold. And to figure out how they claim to have done this, today's deep dive is taking us into a very specific, highly detailed public declaration. It was written in 2012 by an organization known as Lifechanyuan.
Right, the 2012 manifesto.
Exactly. They released this text essentially waving a massive flag at the global media and various governments, detailing the huge success of what they called their second home.
And we should note, at the time this document was published, this experimental community had already been running for 3 full years.
3 years of actual boots-on-the-ground operation. But before we get into the actual mechanics of this community, we need to establish some ground rules for our deep dive today.
Yes, very important. Our mission here is not to endorse this organization, and we aren't here to debunk or criticize them either.
We are just looking at the facts.
Exactly. We are acting entirely as impartial explorers. We're going to unpack the incredible social and structural claims made in their very own manifesto. We just want to analyze the logic and the architecture they built this proposed utopian society upon.
Right. We are looking purely at their blueprint. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand that blueprint, we have to start with the people who actually lived in this second home.
The demographics are fascinating.
They really are. Because if you picture a modern commune, you might picture, I don't know, a handful of perfectly matched 20-somethings who all share the exact same background, just living off the grid in a cabin somewhere.
Yeah, like a highly curated group.
Exactly. But the document states they had nearly 170 people spread across 3 different subunits.
And the demographics are what make this immediately stand out. They place a massive emphasis on the diversity of their population in the text.
Yeah, they had members who were blind, members who were deaf.
Right. And the ages range from toddlers as young as 3 to elders in their 80s, though the document does note that the majority of the residents were middle-aged.
Which means you have this massive variety of physical capabilities, health requirements, and life experiences, all just trying to coexist in one system.
Which sounds like a recipe for friction, normally.
Yeah, right, normally. Now, in the text, Lifechanyuan is very quick to explicitly state what they are not. They insist they are by no means a religious organization, they aren't a political faction, and they aren't even a self-cultivation or wellness group.
So what do they call themselves?
They define themselves simply as a big, harmonious family that is aimed at the entire world.
And that specific framing is so crucial to their mission. By outright rejecting traditional labels like religion or politics, they're attempting to position their community as a universal human solution.
Right, a solution for everyone.
Exactly. They don't want to be seen as an exclusive club bound by a specific dogma. They really want to be seen as the next logical step in human social evolution.
But the terminology they use to describe the mechanics of this universal solution is, well, it's dense. They refer repeatedly to their system operating on a holographic thinking and holographic pattern.
Holographic thinking.
Yeah. And when I first read that, my brain immediately went to a complex forest ecosystem.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Think about an old-growth forest. There's no CEO tree barking orders or managing the soil. But through root systems and mycelial networks, resources are just naturally shared. Nutrients are moved exactly to where they're needed, and the whole forest thrives as a single massive organism.
Right. And to build on that analogy, the defining scientific characteristic of a hologram is that every individual part contains the information of the entire whole.
Right, exactly.
Like if you cut a holographic image in half, you don't get half the picture. You get the complete picture, just smaller.
Wow, okay.
So when they apply this holographic concept to a society, it means every single individual member theoretically internalizes and reflects the exact same core values as the community at large.
Oh, I see.
Because the macro is perfectly reflected in the micro, top-down instruction becomes completely unnecessary.
I mean, I understand the theory, but trees and photons don't have egos, you know?
Very true.
How do 170 different human beings with 170 different personalities, traumas, and daily preferences actually achieve this holographic mindset without the whole thing just descending into total chaos?
Well, the author of the text actually anticipates that exact confusion.
Good.
What's fascinating here is that they openly admit that trying to comprehensively understand this holographic pattern through pure intellect is incredibly difficult.
So they basically admit it's confusing.
Yeah, they do. Instead, the text pivots and heavily relies on feeling and lived experience over intellectual analysis.
Oh, interesting.
The argument is that you don't need to understand the complex sociological mechanics of this system. You just need to experience the serenity it brings.
So just trust the process and feel it out.
Basically, the document claims that this holographic thinking brings an observable, tangible piece to nature, to society, and to every individual who steps into it. They bypass the academic debate entirely and just point directly to the results.
And those results require stripping away what is arguably the biggest source of friction in modern society, which is money.
Oh, absolutely.
Inside the second home, the text outlines that currency is completely useless. It vanishes entirely from all person-to-person interactions.
Characteristics 2 and 4 of their manifesto outline this in incredibly stark terms. They enact what they explicitly call a complete communist life.
Complete communist life.
Yes. Upon entering the home, members must physically hand over all of their belongings. You no longer claim possession of any private materials, real estate, or articles.
None of it.
None of it. And in exchange for surrendering your assets, the community takes on the burden of absolutely everything.
Right.
They raise and educate the children, they provide comprehensive care for the elderly, they feed you, they clothe you, they house you. The individual financial burden and all the anxiety that comes with it is just entirely erased.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It essentially functions like checking into an all-inclusive permanent vacation, but your wallet and your luggage are permanently confiscated at the door.
That's a great way to put it.
And to handle daily logistics, they use what they call the storehouse system.
The storehouse system.
Yeah. The document stresses that there is no distribution, no rationing, and zero supervision. If you need a toothbrush, you walk to the storehouse and you just take a toothbrush.
And if it's not there?
If the storehouse is out, the community buys it from the outside world for you.
Yeah.
They even include this highly specific quote that is impossible to forget. They say members can eat as much as they want. Quote, "It doesn't matter even if you can have 8 steamed breads at one time," unquote, as long as there is no waste.
The 8 steamed breads rule.
Yes.
It is a perfect encapsulation of their philosophy. It's a very deliberate detail meant to highlight the absolute absence of scarcity in their daily mindset.
I have to challenge the reality of that, though.
Go for it.
From a basic human behavioral standpoint, if I can walk into a storehouse and take whatever I want, whenever I want it, what actually stops human greed? We've all seen how people react during a crisis.
Oh, definitely. Like clearing out grocery stores.
Exactly. Does the text explain how they prevent the classic tragedy of the commons, where people naturally panic, clear out the shelves, and just hoard supplies in their rooms?
Yes, and this is where we see how they actually enforce that holographic mindset in practical reality.
Okay, how?
The text relies entirely on free will and volition.
Just free will. That sounds a little naive.
It does sound naive on the surface, but there's a deep psychological mechanism at play here. The system operates under the strict assumption that hoarding is a trauma response to artificial scarcity.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. In our current society, we hoard money and resources because we are terrified of running out. It's a survival mechanism. The second home treats that greed not as an inherent human flaw, but as a conditioned response to capitalism.
So they think if you remove the threat of starving, you remove the greed.
Exactly. If you can truly convince an individual that the storehouse will always permanently have bread, the urge to hoard 8 steamed breads under your mattress simply evaporates.
It acts almost like exposure therapy for greed.
That is exactly what it is. And furthermore, because that survival anxiety is gone, they believe members will naturally want to give back to the community according to their physical and intellectual capabilities, entirely without being forced.
So personal property is systematically dismantled. The financial stress is completely gone. But if we are removing all the traditional boundaries of what is mine and what is yours, it naturally bleeds into personal relationships, doesn't it?
It does. It has to.
The text doesn't stop at economics. Characteristic 3 states that marriage and the traditional family disappear entirely.
This is undoubtedly the most radical structural claim in the entire document.
Massive.
Upon entry into the community, original husband and wife relationships are completely dissolved.
Yeah.
Original family structures and hierarchies are dissolved. Instead, the text claims that all members of the home immediately become relatives to each other.
Which is just wild to think about. And to make that massive shift work on a practical daily basis, they introduce a hyper-specialized division of labor. Characteristic 5 outlines that inside the home, cooks only cook, cleaners only clean, farmers only farm. The text claims this completely eliminates all the troubling chores that constantly pester traditional small families.
It's the ultimate compartmentalization of domestic life.
I can absolutely see the appeal of ditching the laundry forever.
Oh, same here.
If you are the designated farmer, knowing you will never, ever have to do the dishes again is a pretty powerful pitch.
Definitely.
But pairing the elimination of chores with the total loss of your marriage, that's a massive psychological leap.
It is a huge leap.
How does the document justify tearing down the foundational nuclear family, like separating spouses and redefining parenthood, just to achieve a frictionless chore wheel?
Well, the chore wheel is just the practical side effect. The core reason is deeply philosophical.
Tell me more about that.
Within their ideological framework, the traditional small nuclear family is viewed as the primary source of human conflict and selfishness.
Wait, really? The family is the source of selfishness?
Yes. Think about how a traditional family functions in society. Your loyalty, your time, and your resources are fiercely protected for your spouse and your biological children. You hoard wealth to protect your family's future.
Oh, I see where this is going.
You compete with other families for status, for real estate, for resources.
It's a terrifyingly logical premise when you look at it that way. The text essentially argues that love isn't the problem, exclusivity is.
Exactly. Exclusivity breeds conflict.
By dissolving the nuclear family and making everyone a relative, they are essentially weaponizing human affection.
That is a great phrase for it.
They are taking that fierce, protective loyalty you feel for your immediate family and spreading it so completely across 170 people that tribalism simply cannot exist. You aren't just caring for your child, you are collectively raising all the children.
Precisely. They view the nuclear family as a tiny, stressed-out corporation competing against millions of other tiny, stressed-out corporations. By dissolving those individual corporations, you completely remove the mechanism for competition.
But if you completely dissolve the nuclear family, you are also dissolving the primary way human beings organize their daily responsibilities.
True.
Without parents assigning chores to kids or spouses negotiating who pays the bills, how does the trash actually get taken out? How does this massive, family-less collective govern itself?
According to characteristic 1 in the text, they don't.
They don't govern themselves.
There is zero management. The document proudly states there are absolutely no rules, no regulations, no accountants, no tellers, and no offices of any kind.
See, that sounds like a fast track to the exact chaos I was worried about earlier.
It sounds like anarchy.
It really does. Now, they do mention that each subunit has one director, but that director is strictly defined as a servant laborer. They have zero authority to impose their will or enforce rules on anyone else.
Right, a servant leader in the truest sense.
Yet, in the very same manifesto, under characteristic 7, they claim to have achieved unbelievable efficiency. They say work begins immediately once a decision is made, and everyone aims for the absolute best quality.
Not just that. They claim that labor has become the primary requirement for the members, to the point where people actually feel physically uncomfortable if they are asked to rest or skip their collective duties.
Which is just so foreign to how we normally think about work.
It is. But you also have to factor in the rich cultural life they describe alongside this labor. They claim the community is filled with endless games and healthy entertainment.
Oh, right.
There's this fascinating line stating that anyone who has lived there for more than 6 months can suddenly sing and dance.
Sing and dance.
Yep.
So what does this all mean? How can a society have absolutely no managers, no written rules, and no punitive supervision, yet operate at a military level of efficiency where people are literally begging to work, refusing to rest, and, spontaneously singing and dancing. The paradox there is massive.
It seems paradoxical until you realize how they have fundamentally redefined the concept of work.
Yeah.
This raises an important question about how we view labor today.
Okay, how so?
In modern society, work is almost entirely transactional. You give your time, you endure stress, you submit to a manager, and in return, you get the money required to survive.
Right. It's an exchange.
But in the second home, that transaction is gone. Because creation and labor are framed as a joy, an act of serving your extended family, it changes the entire psychological weight of the task.
So they've completely reframed labor. It's not a transaction for survival anymore. It's a collective, gamified expression of community.
Exactly. When you pair this daily labor with endless cultural entertainment, like the singing, the dancing, the games, work stops being an alienating chore and becomes their core identity.
I get it now.
When labor is seen as a joyful, collective game that everyone inherently wants to play because it benefits their vast extended family, the entire concept of formal management becomes obsolete. You don't need a manager to force people to play a game they love.
That makes total sense.
Yep.
And all of these radical social rewires, abolishing money, dissolving marriage, eliminating management, they all build to the document's ultimate utopian pitch to the outside world.
The big finale.
Characteristic 8 is where they plant their flag in the ground. They claim that for 3 entire years, the community has been completely harmonious and utterly crime-free.
And the specific examples they offer in the text are striking. They state that quarrels and fights are incredibly rare.
Wow.
They use this classic utopian imagery. They say doors are left completely unbolted at night, and no one pockets lost items found on the ground.
Just left on the ground.
Yeah. Furthermore, they explicitly state that women enjoy a high status in the home, with their security and human dignity comprehensively guaranteed, noting that no one who lives there ever wants to leave.
That is just, I want you to picture your own neighborhood tonight. Imagine leaving your front door wide open while you sleep.
I definitely couldn't do that.
Right. Imagine dropping your wallet on the sidewalk in a busy area and knowing with absolute unwavering certainty that it would just sit there until you walk back to retrieve it.
It's an incredibly seductive image of peace.
It really is. But looking at the text's conclusion, the author guarantees that this isn't just a localized fluke. They predict this exact model is going to blossom worldwide, bringing good weather, harmony, and happiness to all of mankind.
Right, the prediction.
But isn't this harmony purely the result of intense self-selection? I mean, only a very specific, deeply agreeable, and perhaps highly disillusioned type of person would willingly give up their personal property, their privacy, and their marriage in the first place, right?
That is the exact friction point of almost all utopian experiments.
Yeah.
Yes, the self-selection bias is massive. The people who choose to enter a system like this are already highly predisposed to its rules.
Exactly. They want it to work.
However, we have to look at the function of this document in its historical context. It's designed as a highly optimistic public manifesto.
Right. It's a pitch.
Its primary goal is to paint a picture of great harmony in order to convince the media, the government, and the broader public that a radical, entirely frictionless way of life is not just a philosophical pipe dream, but a functioning reality.
They're trying to prove it's possible.
They are arguing we successfully maintained this with 170 diverse people for 3 years, therefore the model is proven. The open invitation to the media and government to come and see it for themselves is their way of validating that claim against the exact kind of skepticism you're bringing up.
It is a massive swing. Just to summarize the sheer scale of the social experiment outlined in this text, we are looking at a community attempting to cure war, crime, and general human unhappiness by taking a scalpel and completely excising money, marriage, and management from the human experience.
It is a total uncompromising rewrite of the social contract.
It really is.
It is an attempt to return to a state of complete interconnectedness by systematically dismantling every single structure that currently divides us into individual competing units.
So as you go about the rest of your day, I want you to think about your own life for a minute. Think about the modern burnout so many of us feel.
Oh, we all feel it.
Which of these everyday stressors, the constant gnawing anxiety about money, the endless loop of domestic chores, the suffocating societal rules and office politics, which of those would you eagerly hand over to a second home? And more importantly, What would you be willing to trade for that kind of profound, guaranteed peace?
Would you trade your private bank account?
Exactly. Would you trade your traditional family structure?
And that leads to a final, slightly more provocative question that lies just beneath the surface of this entire manifesto.
What's that?
The second home is built entirely on the complete eradication of conflict. But if a society actually manages to eliminate every single source of personal conflict, friction, and private property, do they accidentally eliminate the very individual drive that leads to art, to massive innovation, and to deep personal growth?
Oh, that's a fascinating point.
Can human beings actually thrive indefinitely in
Yeah.
perfect undisturbed harmony? Or do we, deep down in our messy psychology, secretly need a little bit of friction to keep moving forward?
That is the real question, isn't it? If the machinery of our society is causing us pain, maybe the muddy waters of human friction are exactly what force us to keep inventing new ways to fix it.